Hola. As you can tell by the title, I'm going to be talking to you guys about the time that I was in a domestic violence relationship. Before I begin, I just want to say that I'm not making this video to bash anybody, to get any sympathy from anybody. This is just my story, and so I'm not going to be saying his name or any other people that are in this story, just because I believe that people can change. So let me begin. So I was a freshman in high school and he was a sophomore. So we started talking. So we would just text and talk on the phone, and so we started going to school. We wouldn't go to school. We would, skip school or whatever you want to call it. And we would go to his house. Obviously, you know what went down or whatever. And that went on for some time. And so then, I would go to his house. Okay, so another thing, I've never told anybody the full story, our full story. So this is a first for everybody. We started, skipping school, go to his house, and so we hit it off and we started dating. Everything was good, young couple, puppy love, whatever you want to call it. It was good. And then we started having problems, for the simple fact that, like, I would see him talking to other girls, or like on Facebook, because back then Facebook was like really big. So I would see him talking to other girls on Facebook or whatever, and that's where our issues began. So that's where it started. We never, how can I say, we never really like got into like a fight, or it was just always just verbal. And well, in the beginning it was always just verbal, like, we were that type of couple that were like, okay, we're in an argument, so we're broken up. So we would break up for like a day, and then he would, like, sweet talk you into it, and then I'm back with him. So that's how it was. I started having problems, like, at home or whatever. Like, I just, a rebellious teenager, I guess you can call it. And so I started having problems at home with my parents. So, like, one thing led to another, and I ended up moving in with him and his family. And, mind you, I was 16, I'm a freshman. I was working, and I ended up, I stopped working once I moved in with him. Moving in with him in the first place was like the biggest mistake I could have done. And yes, I can say I wish I can go back and change everything, but going back and changing everything changes everything now, you know what I mean? I would still keep in touch with my family, kinda, sorta, but it wasn't the same. So like, I would still text my sisters every now and then. So I was talking to my family, and then we kept having issues. Still him talking to other girls, and him thinking that I wanted to talk to other guys. Or, obviously I had guy friends before him, and he didn't want me talking to them. I have a best friend. He didn't want me talking to her. And so he didn't want me to talk to anybody. He didn't want me to have any friends. And then it started getting to a point where he didn't want me talking to my family. He didn't want me going over, because sometimes they would go and pick me up, and he didn't want me going over. So then that's where we started having our biggest issues. For stupid reasons, we would get into arguments that would just escalate and escalate and escalate. Yeah, so that happened. But you know, again, when we were good, we were good. So all that, like, I would just try to brush all of that to the side, and we were good. And you know, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, what if I, you know, if I just listened to this guy, maybe we wouldn't get into arguments, you know. So yeah. So then, our one of the first incidents was he was in a baseball team, or he was going to be in a baseball team for school, and he was in a baseball meeting. So me and my best friend, we were waiting for him. We waited for him because he was at the school having the meeting. So we waited for him, and you know, he started taking long. It was like taking really long. So I texted him and I was like, we're gonna start walking. If you get out, you know, then catch up to us. So that happened. So we started walking. We were already off the school premises, and I hear somebody like running like after us, you know. And I turn around and she turned around and it was him. And I was like, you know, I seen the look in his face, and I knew that he was like pissed. Like, he was pissed. So yeah, so he ran to us and he was mad. Like he pushed me, and he tried to take my phone. So I was able to put my phone in my pocket. I want to say it was, I put it in my pocket or I put it in my bag. Either one of those two, to where he couldn't get it. And so yeah, so he kept trying to take my phone. And when we would get into arguments, he would always try to take my phone just so I won't be able to call nobody. And so that's what he did. And you know, my best friend, she was like, you know, like, dude, leave her alone. You know, like, what the fuck? We're walking to your house. Like, we're not going nowhere else. And that's what we were gonna do. We were just walking to his house. And so yeah, so he started pushing me. He pushed me to the ground, and he would push. I got up, and we were on a street, like in a neighborhood street, and there was like a fence. The house had a fence, and he like pushed me up against it. And the whole time, like, I was just so embarrassed, the fact that my best friend had to witness all this, you know. I was just so embarrassed. I was scared. So I finally was like, okay, whatever, take my phone. So me and her, we stayed walking, and he was right behind us the whole time. And so we get to the house, and he was still mad. So we get to the front porch, and he pushes me inside the house. Mind you, nobody's home, or nobody was home around that time. So he pushed me inside the house, and then my best friend tried to get in, and before she can get in, he slammed the door. She waited outside for a bit. I know I kept hearing her knocking and stuff, but he wasn't letting me get to the door. So he was just, you know, I don't even remember what he was saying, honestly, but yeah, so he was pushing me around in the house. His mom's room was the closest room right there to where we were at. So he pushed me in there. You know, I was just trying to do everything I can do to get away from him, try to get to the door and get to my best friend, you know, and to my phone. So at that point, like, I was just scared. So I was just screaming, you know, I was calling out for her. And at some point, he had me like pinned down on the bed, and like, I just stopped fighting it. And I was, you know, in my head, I'm like, okay, if I just stop fighting it, maybe he'll let me go, and that's my chance to run, you know. So I finally like stopped trying to fight him, and he let me go. And I did try to go to the door, and he stopped me, but at that point I was able to see through the window that my best friend wasn't there anymore. So I was just like, you know, like, fuck, you know. And I was scared, I really was. And then I just went upstairs to the room that we were staying in. After I sat down on the bed, and I was like, you know, like, what the fuck just happened? Like, did all this just really happen, you know? And I was just confused. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if, like, whether to call call somebody. Like, I didn't know what to do. And he did leave me alone. And then he obviously he went, he went to the room, and he sweet talked me into forgiving him or whatever. And I was so naive and dumb at that age, and I was in love with this guy. Like, I was in love with him, and I thought, we live together, like, why wouldn't I just forgive him? So I did. Go figure. And yeah, so we, when we would get into argument, it was good. After, like, probably, I'll say probably a week, we were good, that we wouldn't have a huge argument, or and then so that was our first incident. And then so yeah, so after that, I feel like everything escalated to the point where, he was just, when we would get into argument, he would push me around in the room, or just like talk crap to me. And obviously I'm not gonna say that I'm innocent in this, because obviously I did talk back to him. I did put my hands in him in the aspect of trying to get him off of me, or trying to get away from him, or stuff like that. So I'm not gonna sit here and say I didn't do anything. And after every argument, I would just think, like, I can get through this. It will get better. That's what I would tell myself. Like, it's gonna get better. I knew back then that we were young, and I was like, maybe it's just gonna get better in time. And that was my mindset. And he would always blame me. He would always, say, you see what you made me do, or if you would have just listened, this wouldn't happen, or stuff like that. Our second big incident was after being fed up, obviously everybody has like a breaking point. So I was like, I'm gonna have the courage to leave this guy. Like, I'm gonna leave him, and I'm going to leave this house. Like, my mind was set. So I got some trash bags, and I put all my clothes in. I put all my stuff in them, and I was like, he was in there. So he went up, and he was like, he seen the bags, and he was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm gonna leave. Like, I can't be here anymore. Like, I can't do this. I can't do this all day, every day. Excuse me, I'm young. Like, I can't do this. So, obviously we got into argument, and I didn't tell anybody this. I didn't tell, like, my mom, or, I'm leaving, can you come pick me up? Or my sisters, hey, I'm thinking about leaving. Or even my best friend. Like, I didn't tell nobody. Like, this was just me. Like, I was like, I'm gonna leave. So yeah, so he was like, no, like, you're not leaving. Like, you're not going anywhere. So yeah, so he took my bags away, and he pushed me to the bed. He pushed me on the bed, and he was like, you're not leaving. And he pinned me down, and he was like, you're not leaving. Like, you're not leaving. Like, he was certain that, I'm not leaving. And so obviously, I'm pinned down on the bed, and he's, I'm just trying to get away from him, and I'm like kicking and, trying my best to get away from him. And then at some point, I do break loose, and I start, like, I was just, I don't know what the fuck I was doing, but I was trying to get away from him. So he just started like hitting me. He started hitting me on my head. He didn't hit me on my face because I was covered, but he was starting hitting me on my head. And he did hit me about like 3 times. While all that was happening, while I had my head down, while I was trying to cover my face, I was so scared. And he realized, what he did. And he was just like, fuck, you see what you made me do? I didn't even have to do this. It's all your fault. Like, just, it was all me. Like, it was all my fault. Like, I shouldn't have said I was leaving. I shouldn't have packed my bags. You know, I shouldn't have fought back. Maybe he wouldn't have hit me. You know, like, he was just blaming me. And obviously I'm young and I'm gonna think, you know, yeah, you know, it is my fault. Like, I should have just listened. Like, he is my boyfriend. I should have listened to him. I didn't end up leaving. And when you're crying so much, you just, like, put yourself to sleep, you know? So that's what happened. He wasn't there. He wasn't in the room when I woke up. And there was an empty room right across the hall from us. So I went in there. And I fell asleep. You know, I was like, I'm gonna write this out to the morning, and I'm gonna leave in the morning. And that's what I did. Like, I went to the room and I fell asleep. When I woke up in the morning, this dude was laying next to me, like hugging me, like nothing happened. And I'm like, what the fuck? How can somebody do what you did and act like nothing happened? And I went downstairs. When I went downstairs, I seen his mom. And I told her, you know, I sat down and I was like, you know, I started crying. And I was like, he hit me. Like, he hit me. And she was like, okay, so what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, I was just so confused. Like, you know, how can a person that says they love you so much do this to you, you know? And, you know, obviously I was young, and I was overall, like, I was scared to go to my family and tell them. And I was scared, and I was always like, okay, what is my mom gonna say? What is my dad gonna say? What are my sisters gonna say? What are people at school gonna say if they were to find out, you know? And that's what scared me. I don't know why, you know, it just did. You know, I didn't tell her nothing. I went back upstairs and I found my phone. So I just grabbed it and I ran back downstairs, and I ran, like, to the back door outside, and I called 911. I told them what happened, and he did, while I was on the phone with them, he did go to the backyard, and he was like, you know, what are you doing? Like, you're gonna fucking regret this. And I was still on the phone with them, and I was still trying to tell them, you know, what happened. And he ended up leaving. So by the time the police got there, he was already out of the house. At that point, I called my sister, one of my oldest sisters. I called her and I told her what happened. And, you know, she was like, okay, you know, my mom and my oldest sister are on their way already. They're gonna go get you. And I was okay, you know. I was just so confused. Like, I was just so confused. So the police gets there and they talk to me and they talk to his mom. But yeah, so that happened. I moved back in with my parents, and then I didn't tell anybody. I want to say I told my best friend. I want to say I told her. I didn't tell her completely about everything that happened. So I went back to school. I acted like nothing happened. I didn't even look at him. I like nothing happened. Time passed. We ended up moving. Me and my family, we ended up moving, like, you know, to another little city, whatever. And yeah, so it was time passed, couple of weeks, and he hit me up. And I was just like, you know, I was confused. Like, you know, like, what does this dude want? So I replied and I was like, you know, like, what do you want? And he was like, you know, I'm sorry about everything that happened. I still love you. Da 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 da. And here you go, little Selena, the pendejita. And I was like, okay, you know, like, I guess I still love you, you know. And we get back together, but I lived so far away that we didn't see each other. And when we moved, I dropped out of school So I wasn't going to school, so there was no way of me being able to see him. And quite honestly, I was scared to see him, but I wanted that assurance of still having somebody, still having somebody that I can call, that I can text. We started talking again, and I didn't see him. For a very long time. Very, very long time. And I ended up moving. We ended up moving again to, to a further little town. And, obviously I'm like 17. I was 17 now. I lived there, but a lot of the time I would go sleep over one of my sister's house. And that was very close to him. So we started talking. I told my sister that I was talking to him again. And obviously, she was like, you're stupid. Why are you talking to him again? I started seeing him. I eventually ended up moving in with my sister. Like, fully ended up moving in with my sister. And we were good. Like, we were good. Like, we were legit good. And I was like, like, he changed. Like, he's not going to do it again. And we would have little arguments here and there, but it was nothing ever big again. But like I said, again, we were that type of couple. We're like, okay, we're mad at each other, so we're gonna break up, and then we will get back together the next day. Stupid. On Valentine's Day, he proposed to me. I was 17, he was 18. Obviously I said yes. I was happy. I didn't tell my family that I was engaged. I didn't tell nobody. Just like my sisters knew. I did post it like on Instagram, and I ended up deleting it. But yeah, like, we were good, and I was like, wow, like he really changed. He wants to be with me. He loves me. I love him. And I always thought, that saying, if you love it, let it go, or let it go, and if it comes back, it was meant to be, or something like that. Well, that's how I thought of it. I ended up moving back in with him and his family again, after everything that happened, in the same house, in the same room, everything. And everything was good. Yeah, we'll have little arguments here and there. I feel like most of the arguments, obviously we were a little older. We thought differently. And I was always like, like, we need our own place. Like, we need our own space. Like, we're a couple, and we need our own space. We're supposed to be getting married. We're engaged. Like, we need our own place. And I feel like after that, like, we would have, every argument was about money, like work, us needing our own space. Like, it was about that. And then obviously eventually ended up again it being about him talking to other girls or whatever. But we were good. It was nothing physical again. It was just verbal. One day I went to the mall with my sisters, and then he was at work. And then he was at work, and I went out with my sisters. I get back to the house at night, and when we were pulling up, there's police there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, like, what happened, so I went inside, to see, if he was okay, or, whatever. And he had got into a fight with his dad. So we had to leave. And we didn't have nowhere to go. We had to get our stuff that night. Like, while the police was there, we had to get our stuff and leave. So my sister, the one that I was living with before moving in with him, she told us we can stay at her house and while we get a place, of our own. So we did. We stayed for about, like, I want to say 3-4 weeks, and we ended up getting an apartment at the same apartment complex as she was. And it was like down the hall from her. And we were like, it's perfect. Like, we even did like a housewarming party. Like, we were good. Like, my family accepted him in again. And I was like, like, this is it. Like, this is my guy that I'm gonna be with. And my family is getting to know him before, you know. And everything was good. We had our own place. He was working good, and we were good. Like, we were really good. So, you know, and the only problems that we would have were like, he would go out with his friends and like drink and come back home drunk, obviously, or, you know, high, whatever. And he would get physical, like, you know, like push me around or whatever. And we ended up, you know, it was just okay, just sweep it up under the rug, we're good, you know. The next day we're good. My then brother-in-law got locked up, and me and my sister, he got bailed, and we went to go pick him up at the station or whatever. And he was mad about that. He was like super pissed about that. He was like, you know, how can you go pick him up? And mind you, I'm with my sister and my niece to go pick him up, so it's not like I'm picking him up by myself. And so yeah, so he was like super pissed. I had the key to our apartment, and he needed to go in there. So yeah, so me and my sister, we went to a Sonic before picking him up. And so and then, you know, he was like, you know, I need the key, whatever. So I was like, okay, we're at the Sonic, come get it. So my sister went inside, and he pulls up, and he's like super pissed that I'm doing this. And, you know, obviously I knew he was pissed, and I just cracked the window a little bit, and I, you know, just enough for the key to get in. And he was like, watch when you get home. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm just like, is this like all over again? Like I don't get it. Like, why is he so mad? And that's all he kept telling me. Watch when you get home. Watch when you get home. And I'm like, okay, so whatever. We're going to go pick him up, whatever. So I didn't see him when I got back to the apartment. Say he went out with his friends, and he didn't come home till like in the morning. No, it was like at night. So he didn't come home till like 3. Yeah, it was like around 3 that he didn't come home, and he was super drunk, like I said. And he just started, you know, you're probably messing around with him. Mind you, this is my brother-in-law. You're probably messing around with him. Da 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 da. That's why you need to go pick him up, and this and that. He was just saying a whole bunch of crap, like a whole bunch of crap, just going like way beyond what it's supposed to be. And so I'm like, you know, like, I'm not gonna do with this. So I said, you know, my sister's apartment was down the hall. So I try to get out of the apartment, and he slams the door closed, and he's like, you're not going nowhere. Like, you're not going nowhere. You're gonna stay here, and that's it. And I'm like, dude, just like let me leave. Like, you're drunk, and you need to calm down. So I'm gonna leave, and you're gonna stay here, and you're gonna calm down by yourself, since I can't calm you down. And he was like, he was not for it. Like, and I kept trying to leave, and he was not letting me leave. He's pushing me around, and I'm just like, dude, like, stop, you know, like, just stop. And yes, I was scared, because he's way stronger than me, and him pushing me around, pinning me down, like, that's scary. And the look in his face was just scary. And so I try to get out one more time, and he pushes me to the couch, and I'm like, dude, like, let me go. Like, he was like pinning me down with full force, like with his, and you know, he's pinning me down like this. So he has like his forearm are like right here, and he's just pinning me down, and you know, he's so strong that like it was like blocking my airway. So he was basically choking me. And then you know, I was just like, in my mind, I'm like this dude like is about to kill me. Like that, like that's legit what I thought. Like in my head, that's what I thought. So I just started screaming. Obviously we're in an apartment, so walls are thin. Somebody's gonna be able to hear me. That's what I thought. Like, somebody's gonna be able to hear me. Somebody's gonna come in and try to help me or call the police or something. So I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, like screaming at the top of my lungs. And he's like, shut up, like, just shut up. So I'm like screaming some more, and he just started punching me. And like at some point, like, I like black out, and I'm like, and he lets me go, and I'm just like, like what the fuck just happened? And I just feel like just hot coming down, and I was like bleeding, like bleeding, and I'm just like, what did you do? Like, what did you just do? And I just run to the restroom. And he like catches up to me before I can close the door. And he's like, like, fuck, like, fuck. That's like all he kept saying. And I'm like, get out. Just like, get out. Just get out. Leave me alone and get out. So I close the door and I lock it, and I'm sitting down on the floor with my freaking face in the toilet because I'm bleeding so much. And there was a towel in there, so I ended up getting the towel. And in my head, I'm just like, what happened? Like why? Like, why did all this just happen? Like, who is this guy? Like, this is a guy that, that has told me plenty of times, that he loves me, he wants to be with me, this and that, and this is what he did again, but worse, And I'm just like, I look at myself in the mirror, and I'm crying hysterical, and I look at myself in the mirror, and I'm like what the fuck do I do? Like, what do I do? And he's over here like trying to find tools to unlock the door, and he's like, open the door. He's like, hitting the door and like open it. And there was our neighbors. We only had one neighbor, on the side, and it was nothing but guys. There were nothing but guys. And I said he came back like at 3, so all this happened, all this was like around 3-4. So I'm like, these guys go to work, they're bound to wake up. So, and mind you, he had taken my phone. He had hid my phone. Where the restroom was at it was the restroom, and then the wall, and it was their apartment. So I was like, if I like bang on the wall or knock on the wall, somebody's gonna hear me, and they're gonna come get me, and then I was like, no, but if he hears me knocking on the wall or banging on the wall, whatever, he's gonna come in, and he's gonna do something worse to me. Like, I was legit scared of him. Like, I thought, like, so many things were going through my mind, and I was sitting there. I sat back down, and I was just like, like, and when I was on the floor, I was like, oh, I said I wasn't gonna cry. Like I was questioning God, and I was talking to God, and I was like, if you really exist, if you say, if you love me, why are you allowing this to happen to me? Like, and I was just telling God, like, if you really exist, why aren't you here to protect me, to get me out of this? Like, I don't want to be here. And I've never told anybody this, but I haven't told anybody like details like this, but at some point when I was in the restroom, you know, obviously, like, I had razors in there. And at some point I was like, you know, I'm not gonna be able to live my life like after this, you know. I was like hurt, I was broken, and I was like I can't live anymore, you know. And I did get the razor, and I was like, you know, like, I might as well just end my life. Like what am I gonna do after this? He had always told me, like, you're nothing without me, like, you can't do anything without me. Like, he would legit tell me that. After hearing something for so long, you end up believing it. And I was like, you know, I'm nobody. Like, I'm nobody without him. Why would I want to live? And the next day was my mom's birthday, and we had planned to go out for lunch with her. And I was like, you know, I cannot face my family like this. Like, just looking around, I would get up, look at my face, and I didn't know what to do. Like, I was just so scared. I didn't know what to do. So I ended up just blacking out in the restroom. And I get up. I don't know for how long I was out, but I get back up, and I was like, okay, you know, like, what do I do now? So I didn't hear any movements anymore. I didn't hear him try to get into the door. Like, I didn't hear nothing anymore. I get out the restroom, get on the couch, and I ended up going to sleep. But he goes back to the living room, and he's like, you see what you made me do? Like, this shouldn't have happened. Like, it's all your fault. Like, you shouldn't have, like, you know, just blaming me. And I'm not saying anything to him. I'm just like in a daze. Like, I'm just in a shock. And then, you know, obviously he worked, so he had to go to work. And so he leaves, and I'm like, okay, like, this is my time to leave. Something just kept telling me, like, wait, because this guy is gonna come back, you know. Like, he's gonna come back, whether it's to get something, just wait, you know. And that's what I did. Like, I waited. He left, and I waited. And about like 10-15 minutes later, he comes back in. He comes back to the house, to the apartment, and he gets, you know, I was bleeding a lot, so, and the restroom was like all bloodied up. So he gets like a towel or something, and he like cleans it, and then he takes the towel with him. So I was like, okay, you know, that must be it. Like, he's not gonna come back. Obviously, I ended up finding my phone, and I literally run to my sister's apartment, and I called the police, and they got there, and you know, I told them everything that happened. So, you know, the ambulance came, and, you know, they had to check me out or whatever, and he broke my nose. And, you know, obviously I had to write a statement, whatever. Like, that happened. And like I said, you know, it was my mom's birthday that day, and we had planned to go out to eat with her, like, just us sisters. Obviously, the way my face looked said everything. And so we went out. Like, nobody asked me anything. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't tell anybody anything. And, you know, I texted him, and I was like, you need to get your stuff. Like, that was all I texted him. So he goes with his brothers to the apartment to get his stuff. And I'm like, okay, you know, the whole time I'm looking at them through the window just to make sure they're not taking anything they're not supposed to. You know, just his stuff. I see them take all his stuff, and they stopped coming out the apartment. So I said, maybe they're doing something like fucked up, you know. So we go to the apartment, and they poured bleach on all my clothes. They poured bleach on my clothes. They put some of my makeup in the sink, like bashed it and poured the water on it, left the water running on it. And like, you already did something to hurt me, and then to still go back and do something, like, that's just even more low, you know? We're just like, why would you do that? He just starts going off on me and my sisters, and you know, my sister's guy friend. And so yeah, so that happened, and then I ended up moving to another apartment. And at that point, he had reached out to me. He was like, you know, I'm sorry, this shouldn't have happened, you know, I still love you. So he goes over to the apartment, to my apartment, and we talk. I was like, okay, you know, maybe if I just don't say anything to like trigger him again, like, nothing's gonna happen. So I did that. We did that. We talked. We ended up getting back together. And I ended up having to move in with my best friend. And like, me and him were still talking. And then I broke it off. You know, I was like, okay, like, you know, it's over. Like, we can't be together anymore. And then I started talking to this guy. I ended up posting a picture with this guy on Instagram, and he's seen it. Obviously, you know, he knew where me and my best friend lived. So he went to the apartment, and we lived in the apartment upstairs. Yeah, he would call me, and he was like, you know, come out. You know, is that guy in there? Tell him to come out. You know, this and that. Just a whole bunch of crap. And he was just like, you know, you're going to regret this. You're going to wish, you know, this and that. And da da da. We start hearing gunshots. And I'm like, what the crap, you know? And he was like firing gunshots, like, in the air. We ended up calling the police. You know, we told them what happened. So we go out there, and he slashed all 4 of my tires. And I know it was my fault to get back with him after, you know, our last incident. So I started talking to this other guy, which is my boyfriend now. He stopped hitting me up, and then I decided to go back to school. And then he popped up again. He started following me from school. It happened a couple of times. You know, I told my sister and my boyfriend, every time they would go to my school, he wouldn't follow me. So, you know, we just left it alone. And yeah, we just been living our life. So yeah, that's that. I feel like we don't talk about domestic violence as much as we should, as much as it should be, because you know, I was young, and I know there's a lot of young girls and boys too, because you know, it happens to both genders, that just stick with that person. And a lot of these, you know, domestic violence relationships gone wrong, where a person is, you know, killed, or, you know, whatever the case is, it's because they didn't have anybody to talk to. It's like they just feel like they're alone, that nobody's gonna get them. Just to be able to reach out to somebody, because I know if I had somebody to talk to that has gone through this, or maybe that hasn't gone through this but can still give advice, I feel like I would have never kept going back to him. We brush off domestic violence a lot, because you know, I do see people, I wouldn't say on a daily basis, but I do see people, a lot of people that you can just tell that they're going through something similar. So yeah, so that is my domestic violence story. My side of the story, at least, you know, whether he's told somebody his story or not, you know. So that's me. a part of me at least. I can say now that I forgive him, and I just wish him the best. You know, we're both grown now, so yeah, I do wish him the best, and I have no grudge against him at all or his family. So yeah. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I hope this video helps somebody. I'm gonna put a hotline on the description down below, because I really do wish I had somebody to talk to. That way I would have gone out of that situation a lot sooner. I wouldn't have let it get to the point where it got to. So yeah. I hope y'all enjoyed this, and this is my first video, so bear with me. I hope y'all come back to my channel. I will be posting more. And yeah, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and please give this video a thumbs up, and yeah, hit the bell icon over here somewhere so you can get notified or the next time I post a video. I don't know what it will be. Yeah, if you have any ideas or something you want to see, or another story time, because I do have a lot of stories to tell, or and yeah, so I hope you keep up with me. And if you're a person that is going through something similar to this, or anything in general, you can I'm gonna put my social media. Well, I only have Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat. I'll put my social media down below, so y'all can reach to me. Like, I'm more than happy to be able to help somebody, to talk to somebody, and yeah. So I'll see you soon.